Shalom, Yashua, Elder DFG. Hey, my dear brothers and sisters. Just wanted to take a little time on this, I guess, mid now, so-called spring month, and talk about an incident that just happened up in Shreveport, Louisiana. And if any of you guys, if you aren't familiar with Shreveport, Louisiana, that's well, I just told you, it's in Louisiana, northern Louisiana to be exact. If you were looking at the Louisiana state configuration, as you know, it looks like a boot. Well, New Orleans would be real down near where the toe, or the big toe of where Louisiana would be, and then in the state of Louisiana is where it would be located. And Shreveport would be at the very top of that same boot or shoe as you look at the state. So just to give you a point of reference from the area that I'm talking about, we went through that area a little bit more than 2 weeks ago, or approximately 2 weeks ago, to take care of some family business, and we went through Shreveport. So it was just somewhat shocking to hear that 8 young Israelites were killed, looked like by, a man who's supposedly their father. From what I hear, at least the father of 7 of the 8 of those children. And I think the oldest child was 14 years old, youngest was a year old. And and in retrospect, and as I see it, as evil as a time that we live in right now, where there's no restraints on what a person may or may not do. 2 things. One is why it's important to put evil out of the midst of you. And then secondly, you vet the people around you. Make sure that they are who they say they are. Because a lot of times, these men and women equally, but they get engaged in these relationships and they think that these relationships are founded on love. And only to find out later on they were founded upon sex and lust. And all lust is not sexual. That's why I say sex and lust. Some of them did it because they wanted to have their own man or their own woman so they could have somebody, as they would say, safe sex with, which that's been proven to be BS. But anyway, that to be stated, that's the so-called love part of it. They love, so they're going to get married, and that way they don't be a fornicator, which has nothing to do with fornication, but, anyway, that to be said. And then the other ones are just lust of money. I said love and lust. And their motivation is either mostly one or the other. Very seldom is it a foundation based off of, Yahuah's truth. I didn't say they didn't build it or marry in the church. The church is just a foul, stinky place, a stench full of Baal worshipers who go in there and get married and then come right out there and get divorced. Or pretty much, doing everything under the sun. Everybody in the church is a whole monger, just about. Pedophiles, they're better than Catholics. If they're not pedophiles, they show not to look the other way when their masters, their puppet masters, tell them nothing to see here. But when you look at, people who you're interacting with and associating with, back to the tragedy in Shreveport, these are people who, probably got married and doing the right thing. And, this is, and all this, y'all know how they be talking, brothers and sisters. Everybody, they got all this idealism in their mind. How perfect things are and how perfect things should be and how Yahuwah wants it to be. And they never picked this book up one time to read it or study it. So they go into the rat race and do what the heathens do, and they end up marrying, their own murderer. Guys that sitting around with 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, just one day get up and decide that, this life isn't perfect. He's going to snuff out, their lives and his life too. That's how most of them do it cowardly anyway. And it doesn't matter, they're going to hell. So coward, no coward, you're still going to hell. This book says life for life. You don't take innocent blood. But I just say to be, clear and transparent, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Our book tells us in the book of Proverbs, it says, fret thyself not for tomorrow, for thou does not know what one single thing in a day that can change your whole life. In a millisecond, one incident, one expected tragedy. But the arrogance and the pride of men as we know it is that, nothing matters until it happens. That's their attitude. And then when it happens, they look back and then want pity party. And they really shouldn't find any if you're righteous. You don't let the wicked, console themselves at your expense. They did it, let them own it. Let them do the contrition. Let Yahuwah judge them. Get out the way. He'll do a better job than any of us. I guarantee you that. But I bring it up also about what happened in Shreveport because I see, they had a vigil. Vigil. Yes, they call it vigil. Where everybody come out with their candles, got a big old, heathen, pagan, cross. They all standing around there. Several different ethnic groups and, just saying, just some of those silly, irrelevant, foolish, they're just doing absolutely nothing. And that's really, to be told, the true motivation and inspiration around doing this message Yahuwah has put upon my heart. Because he said that is the problem with it. See, Israel is the problem that's inside of the problem. I'll say it again. Yahshua is the problem behind their own problems. And one of the big problems that, Yahshua has is that it doesn't even know who they are. In most recent conversations and teaching, you heard me emphasize over and over who the people of the book are, but they're hidden, and how that they use wicked, so-called Israelites, which you would probably associate them with African American or black, gay, lesbian. Because they try to be everything now. They're he, or she, or it. This is a bunch of conflated bullshit just to keep everybody, distracted. You got a people who are no people, or people that are a byword among all people. Everybody has their own little special bigoted name to apply to our people. We know that. And a big part of it is because we don't understand the importance, of a culture that's centered upon something stronger than anything that you can imagine. The strength of it is beyond comprehension. No, I said the same thing twice. So we have been called out, been gifted, with a beautiful culture, a culture that's full of equity, levity, which is really love, because love is doing what is right when it's in your hands to do what is right amongst the righteous. Love is equity, balance. As he creates that firmament above and the firmament below. It's holistic. And without a culture and a people who without people who don't have a culture and do not even recognize their own particular identity, that's always going to be the orchestrators of almost. If you want to look at the definition of someone that's almost famous, almost perfect, almost in shape, almost, you'll see someone that looks very similar, to this melanin. A nation full of second and third team players. And not because Yahuwah didn't want us first place, because he drafted us first place. Israel was a first round draft pick. I can use sports, terminology. All of Yahshua. First round draft pick. By the defending perpetual champion, organization. And what happens once we get picked? We get our first paycheck, we go straight to the whole house and to the crack house. And there goes the first round pick out of the league in 3 years. That's Israel turning its back on Yahuwah, chasing the heathens, gods, and treasures. And so when it comes down to really, when it really kind of comes down to bringing the people together and something concrete, what we do is hold a prayer vigil. When it's time to avenge ourselves of someone who has harmed us, what we do is a march protest. And then we've tried that and did that and tried that and just said, well, I'm really mad now. Well, I'm really, 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 really mad now. Oh, I'm so mad. We get to that plane of madness, anger, bitterness. We go to church. We go to church. Now, enemies, they go over, to the armory. If you don't know what an armory is, look it up. When our enemies want to avenge themselves of their enemies, they go to the armory. And they point to us, y'all just go to church. And because we are people who are no people, or people who are so dead set of lusting after what the enemy has and what the enemy values, their system of things, their government, their ordinances, everything about them. And then, stand back and complain about, why didn't Yahuwah help me? That's why I don't believe. I don't believe in church. I don't believe in, or even worse, because there's a side out there that say I don't believe in anything. You're going to hell, but we get you. We understand your position. We don't empathize with you because you're a fool. But now you got the other side over here who just, they want to do absolutely nothing and let Yahuwah do all of the heavy lifting, even the light lifting. And that's the other ones who just, again, like I say, they look black but think white. I'm just using it just for something for a visual, brothers and sisters. In other words, they know they're Israelite, but that's where it starts and stops. After that, they can out-Christian, any Buddhist, any Hindu, any practice of Hinduism, and any other schism out there. But what they're not going to do is hold themselves responsible, accountable for their behavior, sincerely accountable for their behavior, and then leave the church door set and go open up that armory door, or whatever door that is, to defend ourselves. Because if you follow the last couple of studies, and this is where I'm going, you will recognize that when we did not fight back, we were slaughtered. And there was no Jesus coming out of nowhere, as he has not to this very day, and saved us out of the hands of enemies all over this earth that hate us, because they're trained to hate us by those above them who know who we are. Therefore, they use them to hate us, to keep us down. I don't mean hate, because we don't care about anybody's emotion. I can care less about how you feel. I'm talking about the traps and the snares and the violence that's committed or allowed upon us. The perpetuating of everything that's anti-family, anti-Torah. I'm talking about you using culture, anti-culture as a weapon for us. An illusion that our culture somehow, will evolve into their culture, because that's what Booker T. Washington had those heathens, eating out his hands about in the early 20th century. I'm gonna keep the niggas in their place. I'm gonna make sure they're your housekeepers and your lawn keepers and your chauffeurs and your breastfeeders for your impotent breast and everything else. I'm gonna teach them how to be a servant class to y'all. And maybe one day, if they keep on being a servant class to y'all, then maybe you guys, will see them fit to be a part of y'all. That's what Booker T. Washington taught. So all you Booker T. Washington high schools and all this, Tuskegee University, how proud, about this or that in regards to that's the man, white daddy, you know what I'm saying, too, I might add. Of course you knew that about Booker T. Washington, because, that's why you came to this channel. Because that's where you're going to hear something intelligent that could be backed up by facts. That's why we teach, inform, and educate here, as you heard me say more times than one. And so you still got those L. Sharptons, Jesse Jacksons. They always show up, brother. So every one of your clergymen is tied to it. Jakes, all of them. Whenever they need to get that good house, boy, that good house gal, they go and get them and let them spew all their crazy white trash, foolish, rhetoric. And then they go back home and they give a dog a bone. The nigga gets to sleep in the house and the rent gets paid and there's food on the table. But you better not gotta play for master, because there'll be a belt waiting for them. There'll be consequences. Somebody be beating down the door, right? But this is, part of a people, who have an uncircumcised heart, who have lost the ability to be violent a long time ago. So they have taught our people now to be beggars and to be submissive and to be, a good neighbor. Not to your own brothers and sisters, just to a system that's been oppressing you for hundreds of years. And the best way to keep suppressing you is that you have little nighttime vigils, little protest marches, and then go back to church where you came from. Leave the fighting to us. Leave the governing things to us. We know what's best for you, peoples. And that's why every time true leadership like myself rise up among the people, what happens? The people start to run because they have no idea of what leadership represents. And they've never been in a leadership infrastructure. So they think, that someone giving them, direction or advice or holding them accountable, they equate that, brothers and sisters, as going to prison. No shit. It's almost comical, like, damn. And think about it, brothers and sisters. If someone thinks having someone to tell them what to do, how to do it, and hold them accountable for doing it, and pushing on them to get it done, if they think that's prison, you got to say if the people, the majority of people, especially young men and young women, think like that, you got to admit, we're shit out of luck. It's over. At least for that generation. And the book said there'll be a generation that did not know Yahuwah. Probably why this guy felt so comfortable going in there and killing, 8 children. It's like the lieutenant governor, you know what I'm saying? Another, looked like he's an Israelite. Wife wanted to leave. What did he do? That's the only one he had. So you feel like that, if you leaving, then I'm going to kill you. Then I'm going to kill myself. That was a few days ago, too. I think one was Sunday morning, the other one might have been Saturday, Friday. And in both cases, Israelites. You see, hopelessness can only hide its ugly head for so long. Because then hopelessness turns into bitter, jealousy, and envy. And this is why we see people, who are in these hopeless relationships that's going nowhere fast. And what they do is they take shots at other people who are in relationships that have fluidity, people who are bold and not afraid, people who are very confident that Yahuwah's way is the right way, the ancient way. They take they spew their little vomit over, at people, who embrace leadership and understand the importance of a culture and a value system that's uniquely customized for their lifestyles. See, a culture has to fit the people's lifestyles, or you have no culture, you just have chaos. That's why when you go to certain cities, they'll have certain different laws and bylaws, but it's mostly built around what region, of the world that they're in. What makes sense in one environment may not make sense in another environment. So people build a culture and they build laws around the needs of the environment and the needs of the people who are going to live in that environment. And this is what the Torah meant for Israel. This is what leadership in Israel was to represent. Everybody replicated what we were to represent. And then, those of us who, were put in place to do it were always attacked by lesser men and lesser women who refused to do it themselves but did not want to see us do it. And this is what happened in Maccabees. They gathered together wicked Israelites and convinced them that the heathen system was a more functional and a better system than being self-sufficient. And you can't have a sustainable, self-sufficient culture if it does not, again, reflect the people who's going to live and embrace it. Live in it and embrace it. It won't work, ever. So the only way for us to have a successful culture, it has to be predicated on the orders and the laws and the commandments that were set for that particular people. And that's where the Torah and the Tanakh comes into play for us. And this is why I say those who obey it will be blessed. Those who, are Torah-less or rejected are going to find their lives is going to just be constant chaos. 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards. No peace. Illusions of peace. They'll run around, go places, do things, go to the park, go to the movies, go to a banquet or a concert, a parade. You know how we are about parades. And then go right back home to the same misery they left out of. The same emptiness awaited them. All wasted. Because there is nothing foundational for which to build, because you cannot build on anything. You can only build on a culture. You can't build on something that's not able to support, whatever it is you're trying to build. So if you don't have a culture, you cannot, build a strong people. Or focused people, or people who can maximize their potential. It can't happen because they have to have a safe place, a trusting place, in order to be cultivated. And this is why the teachings are so important. It's turning us back to the ancient ways of the old path, so we can be reestablished. We can be cultivated, so that when Yahuwah renews this heaven and earth, He doesn't have to do something different with us. He'll just move us right on over. Because we've already demonstrated while we're here that we're pro-culture, because we're pro-Torah, pro-Tanakh, and we're pro-Him, and we are pro-leadership. We understand there's a big difference being in somebody's prison or being a part of a functional community where you have elders and rulers and different various of different pockets of leadership, mentorship, guidance, counsel, you know what I'm saying, etc. All the things that are essential to build a community culturally right for us. Again, when the heathen pulled us in their culture, they put all kind of laws in there, brothers, so that were anti-us. Most of the laws that are in there that they actually implement are laws that are directed at us. There are a bunch of laws, but the ones they enforce heavy-handedly is any laws that are targeting us in our communities or target us because of our melanin. Or people who are, that we're associated with that they don't want us associating with them because of our, it still goes back to that. Unless you be, the cleaner and the cook in the house. Then you're allowed to stay however long you want. As long as you're reporting, they're checking on you, and you're where you're supposed to be, like a job. But again, when the people don't have a culture, don't have leadership, don't have infrastructure, then there are people that are no people. That's why, again, Deuteronomy 28 said that with those of us who rejected this Torah to Yahuwah, it'll be a byword, a proverb. You know what I'm saying? They're just full of hot air. They're never going to put their works or their words into action. They have all these great words, but as soon as it comes time to actually, rolling up the sleeves, right? And and saying, okay, let's get this show on the road. They have nothing to do with it. That's when you're gonna slowly. There's gonna be one excuse after another. Oh, I forgot. Oh, my ringer was off. Oh, I had some people come in town. Oh, this, oh, that. All lying. Or at least most of the time. But the world is full of liars, and the world is full of what? Robbers. So, two peas in a pod in there. Sirach said. Never trust your enemies, right? He didn't say it had to be outside of Yahweh. He said, never trust your enemies. That means they're going to be among us, and some are not going to be among us, but they're going to be all working and confederate with one another to limit Yahuah's work that he's creating in these last days to be done. And this is why you'll see people constantly running. You'll see that if you go back and look at these teachings, you'll notice that after 2 or 3 days, nobody watches the videos anymore. Now you tell me that's not odd. Now you can go online yourself and you can see videos been up for years and years and years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Just randomly somebody subject just to stop and look. If 500 people stopped and look, you know good and so well 501 going to also stop and look. You know what I'm saying? That's just human nature. But when it stops like that, that means there's an intention to, to smother the truth. Because the last thing that our enemies want is for us to recognize personal accountability and be taught how to maximize it. To recognize it and then maximize it. Because see, when the people start to hold themselves accountable, that means a lot of the distractions are eliminated out of their lives. The wrong people get eliminated out of their lives. The wrong belief system get eliminated because they don't follow the crowd anymore. They actually begin to hear themselves thinking. In other words, having an original foundation or original plate to learn again. Because they've wiped the slate clean. And this is why we're here. Because again, he's helping us transition over there. But in order for us to get there, we got to move all of these, unclean things out of our space. They exist in the space that they exist in. They need to stay in their space. But you notice they're always creeping over here to try to tell us, about how wicked we have to be. Yet they're breaking every commandment, you know what I'm saying? That this book could have, the commandments ain't even written in this book they're breaking. How come a nasty person who don't know the difference between clean and dirty tell you how to be clean? But that's what they do, because darkness is that way. And so in this story here in First Maccabees about our people, our people were infiltrated. We were coming together culturally. We were keeping the Torah. We were fighting to keep the Torah. This was in the time of Alexander the Great. And, because we were getting stronger like we were doing in Egypt. You can read about that, over in the book of Jasher, start reading about chapter 79 down to 82. You'll see that these pharaohs got afraid because we were growing in numbers, like they got afraid of us, and we were having 10, 12 children per family in the 60s and times before that. My mother came from a family of 12, and my mother had 8 children. Most of my brothers and sisters had anywhere between, 8, 12 children. Because we understood fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth. And there were a lot of times there were multi-families too. My father had 4 families. If you have step brothers and step sisters, then you do the math for yourself. But somewhere between the 80s and now, all people were convinced that, life was about selfishness and not about community. And then they put up these prosperity churches, women thou art loose churches, manpower, whatever the hell that means. The strength of a man is in this Torah. Brother, if you don't know the foundation from which your creator, who has created you and made you a special, and you don't know nothing about that, you're not strong. Them steroids and the weights got you confused. As soon as they gone, the weight's gone, the steroids gone, you're gonna come back down to your natural size. Hope you got some wind. You know, some of that in you. But you might need it. Wear your belt buckle tight. Because you're gonna have to defend it. Or you can do it the real way, the hard way. And that way, put out all the foolishness, turn down the volume of everything else that's a distraction. Ask yourself, I'm in an environment where I can be the very best that I can be. And I'm not talking about somebody's damn job. You should never be loyal to a company, brothers, because companies are not loyal to you. Companies are function or structured on profitability. 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 Not you. You're an asset. Probably the most important asset. But if that company needs to fire you to hold on to its assets, just like the slave owners would do to one of our ancestors. If they needed to sell somebody who was in that house for 30 years because they need the money, Sally, get your bag. And Buck, go grab Sally and tie her down into the goddamn wagon. She's been bought. She's been sold. She's kicking and screaming, hollering, Master, but I thought you would never sell me, Master. I've done everything in the house, right? Master looked the other way and said, yeah, but I don't need you no more. I need this money. Your commodity. Well, you think they gave you a Social Security number? Oops, I'm getting off track. But then again, I'm not. But these are parallels between everything. And back in Alexander's day, our people were being assaulted and mistreated just like now. They were after the children. If you read 1 Maccabees chapter 1, they hung babies, talking about these heathens. It's like they never stopped, but I'm just saying. They were hanging them 2,000 years ago and feeding them to alligators, up as late into the 1920s, 30s, 40s, called gator bait. Using them to hunt alligators. But you think that is weird, but that's what Balaam had told the Pharaoh back in our first captivity, Egypt. That was first they take the firstborns and throw them into the Nile River. If that, whatever the Nile River was, I know one thing about it was infested with alligators. Like the shark would follow the slave ships. They knew they would eventually, loving master who love you so much, pickaninny Jane, with your locks. One of these days, master gonna be tired of you, and you're gonna find out why master allowed you to sit around and lay around and look at you for years. It was lust, even though he told you it was love. Excuse me, I hardly never do that, but I needed it at that time. With that to be said, I just think that when we go back and we continue to look and understand where we've been, who we are as a people, it's going to be a whole lot easier for those of us who really trying to come out, or not trying to, those of us who've come out the system, to know what are the things that we have to have in common, and then what is necessary for us to take all of those pieces and bring them together to be whole so that we can actually stand up and fight against these armies that are being formulated against us. And again, it doesn't matter where you are. Just like when people got ready for COVID, they didn't say, well, unless you live in the United States, this was the limits of what would be able to treat you. No, they were able to treat all over this whole earth. All over this earth got what they needed. So you start talking about, international and domestic brothers and sisters, that's just here. There's no such thing as international or domestic anymore. It's all blended in. Between AI, every other kind of, open AI, Chat GPT, the listening devices, DARPA, all these, harp. Please, it's already interunited. They use the same major currency. They email that goes off. It's the internet. When it came out, when that demonic force came into the earth, brothers and sisters, prophecy left. If there was any, that's what ended it. Now, we can be set apart. And this is what these Israelites were doing back in Maccabean time, as they do right now, try to get you not to come apart, try to get you to stay with them, because as long as they got you with them, they can keep you under their laws and under their intimidation, under their threats. And if you do anything wrong, then they can punish you. Like mom and daddy does, or did. But now, you no longer, little this and little that, but you're still getting treated like you little this and little that, Yahshua. Because, again, no culture of our own, and we're being influenced, by others' cultures, so makes us subculture, less than. And a less than people can never win. And the whole intent of, again, the medical institutions, all of them, including pharmaceuticals, the educational system, all of it, including homeschooling, unless you're teaching biblical homeschooling. Religions, forget about it. Like Trump said, religion is the capo, or the Don, whichever. I think the Don is the highest. That's religion. That's the worst of worst. Financials keep you constantly in a state of paying for something. They use that to make you afraid. I'm gonna remind you that again. If money is something you always looking for or concerned about, you have become a slave. So they use money to enslave people, and you are one of their slaves. This book's the Proverbs told us, blessed of Elohim makes a man rich and add no sorrow with it. But you have to completely put our trust in him. But just like that currency that Americans use here, American capitalism currency, whatever you want to call it, the dollar, all in God we trust. Because money is a God. So the financial institution. And then you have your governments, which is just a joke. Your governments are just full of overseers, slave catchers, rapists, pedophiles, thieves, Jesse James bank robbers, burglars, liars on steroids, vicious liars. And for the most part, just wild beasts. Their culture is to, capitalize or take advantage of the weak. The weak here. All the weak here. Remember the story of Gideon? 32,000 showed up for the fight. Gideon said, anybody scared or afraid, go back. Shit you not, brothers and sisters. 22,000 turned around and left, just like that. They didn't get fought, they just got axed. They didn't want to be there. Any excuse would do to go back. We got something like that with us right now. Y'all know that. But anyway. So, your government system that put in laws to keep you under oppression. Enforce laws on, the ones who they want to enforce the law on, and the ones they don't want to enforce the law on, they just let them go. They don't do anything to them. Give them a little lecture. But for us, we know it's targeting us when we represent, 7 out of 10 of the people that are incarcerated because of their laws that they made, put in place for their culture. Make sure that their laws fit what they wanted, but did not fit who we were as a people. So they came up with all kind of laws, socializing laws, more than 2 can't be together laws, programs they put on YouTube to stop teachers like myself and accuse us of violating something, That is simply fair use and for information. And I'm always teaching out of this. So if YouTube got a problem with what I say, they have a problem with the word of Yahuwah, the true word of Yahuwah. So you can see which side they're on. Give you an example just recently. Then we're going to go into Maccabees. I want to read a little bit about, our ancestor. First his father, Yahuwah, and then later on, Judah Maccabees, who was put in charge of his brother. See, leadership. He was put in charge, and they didn't get mad at him. Matter of fact, they built an army around their brother. Took control of their people right out of the hands of a heathenistic system. And the thing that heathen system wanted, more than anything else, it wanted to get, the smart people from among us to side over there with them. And then on the other side of it, they wanted to take our Torah and give us the New Testament. That's what was actually going on. That was the king's religion. If you read chapter 1 and 2, it talks about that. The king, the Pope's religion. Catholicism, universal religion. Still here. Still, nothing changed. But when you're a people and you're a focused people and you have a culture and you understand what's important, then you recognize that although, all of these organizations, and I just talked about them again, I don't want to miss anybody, religion, medical, education, legislative, means all of your governments. Oh, and entertainment, media. Can't leave that one out. Entertainment, media, especially social media. Because they'll let you hear any kind of filth or garbage about anything. And you can sing Jesus till your tongue, gets dried out. And they have nothing to say. But you start talking about Yahuwah, you start talking about who is true Yasharel, how that we're still here. Now Yahuwah is recruiting us from the four corners of the earth. And yes, we are no longer blind leading or being led by blind leaders. No, our eyes are actually open now. We can actually think outside of the box. That little pyramid that they're in, occult sorcery, we're outside. We don't need the pyramid to bring us up. We don't need to be a part of a pyramid scheme of government systems or corruption to grow. No, we're outside of that pyramid. Matter of fact, we're walking away from Egypt. We know we're going to, be disliked for it. And it is what it is. From the wicked come wickedness. There ain't nothing we can do about it. I mean, about who they are and what they're jealous about. What does Jeremiah say? The Ethiopian can't change his the blackness of his skin. It is what it is. So we can't concern ourselves with how the wicked feel about us. But we can defend ourselves against the wicked because of how they feel about us. And when we don't do that, innocent men and women are killed. And that's the example I was about to use a moment ago where I got a warning from, these people who I pay monthly to have this channel to. They don't pay me, I pay them. To help, with some of the support that's from many of those of you who support. But anyway, they were mad because I put up a picture of a Israelite man they had burned, they burned him to death. And his arms were, this part was gone, his leg was gone, his body charred. They said that was hurtful to the people's eyes, and that was offending sensitivity. And I thought to myself, well, how many times do we have to look at this picture of Jesus on the crucifix? Talking about their God. Doesn't he have nails in his hands? Isn't he being crucified? Doesn't he have nails in his feet? Isn't that thing on his head supposed to be thorns, and isn't that supposed to be blood dripping down his face? So they can prance that thing all over the place, and that ain't violating, that ain't hurting nobody's damn feelings. But as soon as we turn back to them the hypocrisy of celebrating that and celebrating this, but saying that's good and this isn't, or this is and that isn't, or ignoring that this one doesn't exist by hiding it in the dark, and somehow or another, it's a violation. No, it's a shame And it just shows how biased and how ridiculous these so small-minded devils who work inside of social media to keep, our people ignorant. Ignorance simply is a state of, how you say, being stunted. Nothing is changing. But your age, you're going to get older. Time outside is changing, that's for sure. Judgment is definitely going to make some changes. That's why I was saying earlier, those of us who are going into this new heaven and new earth, why Edward says there's only going to be a very few of us, because the people who go over there, think about it, very few would have to have changed already over here. Otherwise, how could you be identified as a very few? You would have to have changed. You got 1.3 billion, Christians, and that's just the main church. Satellite church is probably 8 billion of them. They just call themselves by other names, but they're just as Christian as the rest of them, one form or another. That's sure not the few. Now that's the many. A few would be, again, like we started with in Judges chapter 7, where Gideon started off with 32,000 and ended up with 300 men. Of 32,000, only 300. On the day that Noah and his family entered the ark, there were almost 700,000 people plus the number that was given. But only 8 of them were in that ark. So when this book talks about a very few, you got to ask yourself, what is that few doing that everybody else is not doing? Otherwise, you couldn't be that few. The few have to be people who have not only come out, but really understand why they came out, and then reestablishing themselves and learning who they are to ensure that they stay out. Now, who fits that description better than us? I'm talking about those of you who follow these teachings regularly. Those of you who are with us on the Wednesday night studies. Who better fit that than us? They'll come at the elder, well, what about this law? And what about that? Yahuwah always gives me the answer for what they're talking about. Because again, not only I'm well-traveled, he says a man that is well-traveled, that you should be smart enough at least to listen to what you have to say, unless he's talking about something that, that does not interest you. But he said, man that's well-traveled, is one that to be honored. I mean, respect the knowledge, respect the experience is what it's actually saying. Honor that part. You got to honor the person necessarily, but if they've been where you haven't gone and you're trying to go, it would be in your best interest to listen. Wouldn't you agree? As long as there's no harm or no threat. You're not trying to sell you something. Hallelujah. But that to be said, with not only, that time, but a lot of that time was spent, with this book open, reading and studying and learning and growing. Falling and getting back up, and falling again and getting back up. And learning how to trust, with a pure heart, 100% heart. But then stepping back also and looking for Yahuwah for discernment. The wisdom. See, Solomon was smart in that way. You recall in 1 Kings, or was it 2 Kings? When Solomon had become king, one of his prayers was what? He asked Yahuwah, say, give me the wisdom to be able to, to judge your people. Solomon thought about the people. He said, I'm a young man. He said, and I don't really know much about governing people. I need to get wisdom, and I need you to increase my judgment so I can lead. One of the best words in this book, leadership. And it's one of the most despised words in this book by Yahshua. Unless it's somebody else. If it's another nation leading them, then that's okay. White ice is colder than black ice. Y'all know the drill. But when Yahuwah give you leadership from among your own brothers, someone that he has put inside the knowledge and the information and allowed that person to have been experienced among, the governors of this world, at least their peoples, and then send him back on assignment to lead us all back to the path of the ancient way, because that's what Yahuwah said he's going to be. Right there. And the only place he's going to be is right there. It's shunned. It's spoken evil about. Or, again, shadow ban. To make sure it doesn't go anywhere but, like I said, after 3 or 4 days, the videos don't even move. So that's just for validation, brothers and sisters, just to show you that it is real. That's the evidence right there. If I wasn't, this was a junk channel, brothers and sisters, we had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands. If I sat here and told jokes about Erica Kirk, or read little sayings about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or whomever, all hell breaking loose around the world, content, someone who has a platform to sit here and crack jokes and talk about what Charleston White did yesterday. Or one-eyed cyclops. Fool. But that's where, foolish people will spend their time. That's why he said, what did Jasher say? What did Enoch say in the book of Enoch? I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. It says, simple. He said that, chapter 97, verse 16 through 19 says that, brothers and sisters? That to the wise they would not listen, talking about, people who spend their time doing things other than what's most important. And the most important thing you can do is prepare for today with the understanding that the things you do right today will benefit you or cause you harm tomorrow. And that's why we use our Torah, and our Tanakh for foundation and for direction, information. So of course they're going to stagnate, or they're going to put, out, different algorithms on this channel so it don't grow. And that's your evidence, that's your proof. Just go back and look. So why aren't DFG videos, why are they just stopping like that? Not another person viewed it. Billions and billions of people on YouTube, and there's channels out there just got 600 views that stop. And it's happening with everyone. That tells you what we're saying is extremely important. And this is why he counts us as the very small, few, righteous remnant. And we will see it through. And yes, he will put a shield of protection around that group. I can't speak for any other groups out there. I don't know those groups. I only know the ones that Yahuwah has sent here. And he said, I'm going to gather them from the four corners of the earth. So here is going to be one location, not pocket satellites all over the world. Not what he said. He said, I'm going to gather them from the four corners of the earth. Talking about his righteous remnant. And if you don't get gathered, it's because you were holding on to something, and so you got left behind. Simple as that. Because a lot of people, what about me? I'll do this, and what about me? I'll do that. And, and they know good and so well. They were told to stop doing a particular thing. They're still doing it. I'm sure they read upon you what Yahuwah said is something that you should be praying for and blessing, yet they despise it and curse it. Because they don't agree with it, or lifestyle, what have you. And that's why Yahuwah is not going to move. And that's why Yahuwah is not going to do anything. He'll just let them, dry rot right there where they are. End up somebody's stuffed animal. Or worse. But I'll say this to you, my dear brothers and sisters. You follow, our history is here for us to understand. Standing around protesting and doing nightly prayer virgil because somebody, was operating outside these commandments. You're wasting your time. Because I like to believe if he was in here and knew who he was and in this book, he wouldn't want to put his hands on no child, but forbids us to harm innocent blood. But he probably was a Christian, or worse, or nothing. Don't believe in nothing. But he believe in something today. Well, he's probably still alive. He will believe in something when you're finished with his ass in hell. And I don't want to think about what's going to happen to them children. Talking about they left here. And y'all don't play no sanctuary for the baby foolishness. You want your child to reside with Yahuwah, then you had better be residing with Yahuwah before they leave here, if they're underage. But again, as you look at what was going on with the Maccabees, the father left the major responsibility to Judah Maccabees. And he gave them all instructions and told them, remember the ways of the heathens, remember their own culture, remember their own history, and don't get easily distracted. Don't get pulled away by shiny things. You don't have time to be looking back. Look forward. Trust in me with all your heart. Go 10 toes down, 2 fists up, as we like to say. Don't be afraid. Don't be a buzzard that whenever something comes that's big or bad, you run off. Be able to make your mind up about something and stand on it, brothers and sisters. And there's nothing more important to stand on than this Torah and this Tanakh. And this is why, again, they shadow banned it. This is why they don't want teachers who understand what they're reading. Someone who can go through the laws, for example, and tell you, no, Yahuwah said you don't need to do that right now, and here's why. Yes, that is required of you right now, and here is why. These content creators out here, you think, Master's Voice, Celestial, whatever her name is, you think that she can understand it? No way. None of them can. Jace couldn't even understand. He would just tell a lie. Talking about T.I.E. He'd just come up with some, things are changing. I used to like women, now I'm a booty bandit. Allegedly. That's not the kind of change Yahuwah was talking about. Yahuwah was talking about something totally different, so far behind those, oh, retards. That's the best word I can come up with, retards, because I was going to come with the B word, and y'all would have been mad. But that's the best those retards could come up with. It's just making a bunch of noise, shaking the cage like a monkey. Get your attention. And because our people are not, founded on Yah's Torah, because they, again, don't know who they are, because they're afraid to come out, because they're afraid that the enemy might punish them by taking something from them that they wouldn't miss if they had it or not. I wouldn't even notice it gone, better say it. Possessing city blocks that belong to the city is not ownership. So this teaching from this point forward, brothers and sisters, it's going to go through Maccabees chapter 3, chapter 1, verse 3, first Maccabees chapter 3. And again, it's just a follow-up on what we taught on the Shabbat message. So if you haven't seen the Shabbat message, if you go to the second part of that message, you'll see where we talked about the Maccabees. And we didn't talk about the Maccabees, from a storyline about, something. We talked about that, about, not having the wrong people around us. Talking about, we taught that to make sure we understood that this heathen nation will never accept us unless we become them. It taught us that even though people know the truth, they will sit down and wait too long, like those people who got left behind and were tortured. It also taught us that you can't come out of something and bring that something you came out of with you, because in the new place you are becomes the old place where you were. You've got to leave it behind. You got to kill it. This is what happened to the 1,000 people who came out, but they really never came out. They left the place, but the place was still in them. This is like Egypt in the wilderness. Israel in the wilderness looking back at Egypt. So when Yahuwah pulls you out of a place, stay out. You'll be surprised how time will change things. You're giving a perfect example. You go over to Deuteronomy chapter 21, start reading around verse 10. It'll tell us in times of war that when someone it becomes a spoil of war, it tells us that that person gets about a 30-day, what they would call that, time of reflection, time to get, a time for change. It's like almost they set them in a place for 30 days and say, okay, let's let you grieve and let you get all that old stuff out of you. Let you, get you cleaned up. You follow me? Get all that stuff off that shouldn't be off, and let all the beautiful things come in that couldn't get in because they were being blocked, like, a screen over, a sunscreen. Let that soak in for a moment. And then you can blossom and be like a tree planted by the rivers of waters. So when you were looking at, this situation, instead of them leaving behind, they brought that with them. They brought that same fear, that same intimidation with them. But had they really left it behind, they would have understood what time it was. And it so happened they got these people, a whole bunch of people got killed because they followed leadership who, again, just took their religion and put it into a camp. Took their religion and made a community out of it. which is what you see all over the place. And again, all this, that fifth arm of the dragon, the fifth head of that dragon, media, social media. All of the deceive people are to keep people captivated, not learning, not growing, not understanding the dangers of the past, so you can prepare for the challenges of the future by strengthening yourself in the moment, which we call today. And so this is the work that we do. This is the rebuilding process. This is the restructuring of Yahshua. And this is what he was using Judah Maccabees to do here. His father communicated. Don't you forget all the things that, we learned through our history. He didn't stop at what they learned in their lifetime. He brought them all the way back to Moses. Reminded about all the things that happened in the wilderness. Not all of them, but many things. Went all the way back to Abraham. See, we're supposed to stay interconnected. That's why I say this is a history book, brothers and sisters. This does not belong in the church. This belongs on your lap. This is like glasses on your eyes, like frontlets. This belongs before your eyes. This is supposed to be your foundational helpmate. Like, God has given us the woman as our helpmate, right? Well, part of her being able to help us is us understanding what help looks like. And this is what does that for us. And brother, if you don't know what this does for us, she can never help you. And sister, if you don't know what this is, you're wasting precious time. You better move on. I'm not talking about being able to recite it or get in front of you and pretend like he's reading it. I'm talking about where's the fruit and where's the evidence? How is he getting you back to the rest of the people? How is he getting you back to your people? You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, again, you saw what happened in Shreveport. You saw what happened in Virginia. And if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere, including wherever you are. And that's why if that man is not in this book and living by this book, then all he is a man and nothing more. And if he's just a man, I can assure you, some rock can come flying across the street, hit him side of the head, and he'd be out of here. Then where are you? Where are your children then? Who do you turn to then? Because you and I both know, you go back to the heathen relatives, they'll cry for you about 3 or 4 days. And about 3 weeks later, you sitting over there grieving and they over there, you know what I'm saying? Last person they think about is you. And that's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. Because again, like I said before, there's a time, for them to come out, time for you to come out. If you come out, you're supposed to stay out. But in order to stay strong while you're out, you got to know who you are and what your people are, what our people have been through, etc. And that's why I was talking about Deuteronomy 21:10, because it shows that when someone does come out, they gave the person 30 days, to adjust. It's an adjustment period. And I'll say to each and every one of you, my dear brother, you come to this channel, don't run so fast. Stick around for a while. What you're afraid of may be being exposed to you right now. The very thing that can harm you in the future, because you're running from, sounds that are uncomfortable, words that are not, plausible to what you believe. If you want to grow and be intelligent, you have to be able to turn the page of the book. You can't just read the one page and stop right there. One ideology of whatever somebody told you for however long, and you think because that's what they said, then it must be true because most people are doing it, but you never look for the consequences. Is that a good decision based off of what's happening to all these people that are doing it? Not for the outlier, the one of them who hit the lottery. No, I'm talking about for the millions and the billions of others who keep that same system. How is it working out for them? Those who come and gone that you know about, maybe your mom or your grandpa, what life did they live in this system? That's how you know the system is not our system. Because they have all kinds of indicators to show, they create their creative self, even though they probably stole 99% of it. But where's our representation? That we are here. That Yahuwah was dwelling with Zion. Where's that? You only see little specks of it here and there. But there's no true sign. Only a good scout will be able to find us. Talking about the truth. That's how tiny the truth is. This is why Amos said, it wouldn't be, there will be a famine that's coming on the land. He said it would not be simply hunger or drought, thirst, which is environment for that's a disease paradise. But he said, no, the bigger disease would be that no one would be teaching the truth anymore. That's Amos 8 and 11. Read it. So they wouldn't be teaching the truth. And not that they wouldn't be teaching. They're going to keep on teaching what they've been teaching. This is what the king was trying to get the Maccabees to do. Just stay with us and we'll pay you off. We'll give you what you need. You know what I'm saying? We'll set you up, set your sons up. But we don't need you going against what we're teaching. We need everybody to stay asleep. Make a lot of money on Sunday worship. Christmas is the busiest day of the year for us, holiday-wise, money-wise. Followed by Thanksgiving and Halloween and Valentine's Day. So you're messing with our, get your hands out of our pocket. You start waking these people up, you're going to take money from us. Can't have that. I hope that picture is being painted a little bit clearer for you, brothers and sisters. The intent is just to get you to be able to see what's happening. There's a similitude that people think is life that's going on. But brothers, this is fake as, you know what I'm saying? Trying to grab your shadow and lift it up and carry it somewhere. It ain't going to happen. It's an illusion. But you feel like you're part of it, though. And it seems real, but that's the power of sorcery. But really, everybody's doing the same thing. This is what mankind is doing, just like that. I don't care where they are over this whole flat earth. This is them. Only Israel, righteous remnant, this is us. This is them, and this is us. This is them. And this is us. And the more we watch them, this starts to happen with us. And it turns into this. And then we want to grab something big. And then we want to just beat the living nonsense out of it. Beat it back into hell. Like a hammer on a nail. But Yahuwah going to do that part. And so they were hiring Israelites to keep us into that system, just like they're doing now. That's what the church and all these institutions are about. You want to have welfare, then you're going to give me all the information I want. And by the way, if that baby dad is alive, I want him in jail. I want him dead. I want his mama dead. I want his children dead. I want him dead. I need you to help us destroy him. And when your son gets to be grown and he didn't have a father, then he give us twice the work we would have got from his dad that you tore up, because now we're going to put him in his prison and we're going to pay him $1 an hour. And he's going to stay in here for the vast majority of his life. You accept that deal, mama? And I know most of daughters of Zion, yeah. So school to prison pipeline we go, and every kind of mayhem on this earth. How you said earlier, brother and sister? The enemy within, enemy without. Or the enemy inside of the enemy. The problem behind the problem. But there's a way out, and that's why we teach, inform, and educate here. That's why you hear some of the monologue from me, just to challenge you, push on you, ask you, do you really know for sure that, for you who may be new to this channel, do you really believe that, this supposed to be savior of the world had been in a situation where Satan himself, according to their legend, this is their legend, legendary, alleged, however you want to say that, legendary, that their God, their Savior, was letting Satan lead him. And he was taking him to all these places. He was following Satan now, brothers and sisters. And Satan showed him this, and Satan telling him that. And he would answer Satan. He wasn't leading Satan. Satan was leading him. But he's almighty. He was in the beginning. He was the Word. I mean, he was here before Satan was here. And now he's down in a conversation with Satan. I tell you, that was the outer talking to the inner self. I think it was the outer self talking to the inner self. I'm telling you, you're following, just like he was following the devil. If you're following him, you're following the devil. If you believe that myth. You can read about that in Matthew chapter 4, verse 8. Hell, Satan told me, I'll give you, if you bow down and worship me, I'll give you all this worldly stuff. We see that happening, and it's being driven what through? Through the church. Through all these Christians. Make America great again, or wherever they are. Whatever missionary, whatever organization, doesn't matter where you are. Religion is stuffed so far down in Africa's mouth, I'm sure when they throw it up, they see a big giant aura come out of their mouth first. The most religious continent on this earth, Africa. Between Islam and Christianity and voodoo and all other kind of dark magic, folly, foolishness they got going on over there. Please. Why you don't let them call you what you're not, brothers and sisters. We're Israelites. I talked about it in the Zondervan book, dictionary. We talked about this the other day. I know I'm going to get to Maccabees. I'm not in a hurry, so you can listen to this however you want to listen to it. This is the Zondervan Bible, and it talked about the definition of, it just told us who Ham is, and this is a Catholic, written by the Catholics. And so it's pretty well, as far as information and references, you can find a lot of it. Of course, you're going to find a New Testament lies in here too, reference points. But we talked about Ham and who was Ham's seed. We know Ham had 3 sons, Shem, Japheth, and Ham. Noah, I said, had 3 sons. And this kind of talks about, if you can see that, yeah, you can see it. That it was the Negro, you know what I'm saying, is the one that's not a part of the descendants of Ham. And some of us, because we're a little older than some of you, these heathens, and I was born into a Catholic family, so the Catholics would have known who the Hamites were and who they're not. And they specifically said not the Negro, and I was Christian in there and baptized in there, and on my birth certificate, my so-called ethnicity, if you want to call it that, is Negro. Actually, it says Negro on it. Not American, it says Negro. So they knew. They don't put it on there anymore because they don't want you to know. They want you to think that you're anybody. How you say a pronoun. But in true Israel, we know who we are, and there's evidence. Some of us can follow it all the way back. They left evidence. They're not that crafty. But as long as you stay in the church, you're never going to know who you are, because the church is paid to tell you you're part of a big group. Yet, in this book, they say the last people who are going to survive here are going to be a very small group. And you'll hear it being spoken about as I get into this, okay? Thank you for sticking around this long. Thumb up the message if you haven't already. Share it. Subscribe to the channel. But this is a part of a continual journey. So this fight up to this point was behind our people breaking away from the heathen governments. And the heathen government coming back, they're trying to force our people to come back. They tell us to go back to wherever they think we're from. Of course, them devils think we're Africans. Show you how ignorant they are. But anyway, they're quick to tell you to go back to Africa. But as soon as we start talking about the masses coming out and going, all of a sudden now they come in and try to throw the leader under the bus. Oh no, see he did. Oh no, he did that. No, when he was 12 years old, he stole some lollipops, out of his mama's pocketbook. So he's a criminal. I mean, they'll go that low to knock a real leader of Israel down so that Israel won't follow, because Israel tends to, let the heathens vet their leaders instead of them getting to know their leaders and vetting the leaders themselves. They just go off of hearsay. word of mouth. And they're listening to liars. So that's, you see how it always works out to their disadvantage. Duped and duped and duped. Or simple-minded who won't listen to the wise, as I was about to say when I was talking about the book of Enoch 97 and 16. How people won't listen. They think leadership is again, supposed to be like it's a wall or a stumbling block. Brothers and sisters, there's never greatness without leadership. It'll never happen. There's no great nation ever accomplished anything without leadership. You know, our Torah tells us about leadership. Go read Exodus chapter 18. Read the whole, all the way down. And you'll see where Yahuwah gave Moses direction. They, gave him advice to set up a leadership infrastructure. Exodus chapter 18 is right there. Read it. And then come back here and say, now I'm ready to be led, Elder DFG. I get it. For me to be strong, for my children to be strong, for me to be able to sustain the storm that's coming, I have to be a part of a team. I have to recognize that whatever role I play in that team is as important as any other role that's getting played, as long as I stay on my post. I stay in what we would call my circle of influence. And that way, as everybody else is focused on their circle of influence, then someone like myself can focus on my circle of control. And then guess what, brothers and sisters? We move into our blessing and prosperity and all these other awards that Yahuwah says, award them. Read Deuteronomy 28, start reading that verse 1, go down to verse 15. For us to embrace that, this has to happen. The leadership has to start at a central point or a person. And then it spreads out like a tree, like vines on a tree. Well, not vines, not just a good thing, but like leaves or branches, the roots in the ground. And the more leadership that's on the same accord, that's interconnected, the stronger the tree. That's why David said, like a tree planted by the rivers of water. In Psalm chapter 1, Jeremiah talks about it, Jeremiah chapter 17, around verse 9. And so what they were doing, they were getting our people, pulling our people out of the wicked system of things. And, some of the people left and, others left, but they didn't fight. They didn't defend, themselves when they left. And because they were still fearing that enemy. They were still fearing what some government or somebody working for the government or someone in the family going to think about them, what the government might do to you and what somebody in the family going to think about you. They should be more or less thinking, why does it always have to be us worrying about what they think about us, brothers and sisters? Why shouldn't it be them worrying about what we think about them? Because see, that's really, that's the sensitive side of this so-called gap in understanding. See, they should be worried about how we feel about them, not the other way around. That's a perversion. If we came into the truth, we should never worry about what they think about us. But on the backside, if they're still in the darkness and they saw we walked away even though we were over there with them, shouldn't they be, worried about what we think about them for staying in the dark? But of course they don't care. And we know they don't care. At least that's what they say. But I have an intuitive mind that the truth is not being told completely when it comes down to them saying that they don't care in terms of the importance of what it is that we're doing. They do care of the importance of it. Their fear is they don't understand it. Or even greater fear, they know that mentally they're so caught up in what they already know and what they've been learning, passed down generation, even though they're still in adverse poverty, hardly making it. And yet they're still trusting that same system that they were born into, brought their children into, and now some of their grandchildren are being subjugated to that same stunted reality. Come here a nobody and leave here a nobody. when you were chosen by Yahuwah above all people, the somebody of anybody. But again, they're working hard to keep us down, and they're using wicked Israelites among us. Many of them were some of you, some of them are still you. Because even in the little things that I ask you to do in support of this work, you don't do it. So before you start looking out about them and everybody else, be sure you go look in that mirror and ask yourself the question, how compliant are you? Do you follow instructions? Can somebody count on you? When you're in disagreement, what do you do? Do you hold your commitment, or do you look for, off ramps? Because it is an identification. It is the only true identification of who you are, by the way. That's your true identity. That's your true identity right there. Just nailed it down right there for you. Should anybody trust you, and why should anybody trust you? That's the question you should ask yourself. And for the most part, those of us who are trustworthy, we don't really want you to tell us that you could be trusted. That makes us suspicious of you from the get-go. Because the person of integrity, they don't think about, can they be trusted? They already know they're going to do what they're going to do. Don't go around telling people, you can trust me, you can trust me. They might tell you, they might tell them, you need to learn how to trust yourself, young man. You need to learn how to trust your own self, young woman. You stop worrying about what these other people think about you and own your own outcome, because it is your life, it is your soul. And at the end of the day, you're the only one that's going to have to pay the cost. Because Yahuwah said, you're the boss of you. See, most of our people never had that conversation. Or if they do have that conversation, they whitewash all the evidence that says that's not who they are, and just say that is who I am. And those are dangerous positions to be in. You can't even save them from themselves at the end of that. But anyway, so all of that monologue, praise Yahuwah. But it's important that I just think that to rush through this is to be challenging Yahuwah's patience. I said to rush through this, to me, would be challenging Yahuwah's patience. Because I said that those who wait upon Yahuwah. So what's the hurry? Why are they running? I got something to do. You sure about that? Yeah, I'm sure, Elder. Tomorrow, and then I got something I got to get done before Friday, and I got, okay. Can I remind you of something then? Just if you don't mind, brothers and sisters, if that's you. Did we not just talk about 2 weeks ago passing through Shreveport? And I'm sure that family of 8 had no idea 2 weeks later that all the babies be dead. This woman who married this man who had the potential, went to a very prestigious college, and, she's a doctor, and, he's in the politics, and one day he might become president of the United States. We got 2 babies, got a nice house. Wow, he's lieutenant governor. Wow. Then he murders her. So what's coming tomorrow, you don't have any idea. Is the point I'm making. So when that book says, fret not yourself for tomorrow, but you need to be focused on right now, today. Tomorrow will take care of itself if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're doing something that's important, I can assure you the foundation for what you do had better be centralized on this book, if you're Israel. We don't live a life separate from this book. A couple of days ago, some loved ones, we all got together and just had a nice evening of just interacting with just each other. We had a wonderful time, for the most part. Got a little, you know how it is. Sometimes, people have their moments of clarity and they want to express themselves. And sometimes, overdo it, but we know how to manage that. But I'm just talking about just time together and time to appreciate. So trust me, whatever the cults are, they're not over here with the DFG family. I don't know whatever cult you following. You better get out of there before they send you to hell. But just understand, we're not a part of that team. We're a culture, not a cultic. And my job with the rest of us is to challenge all others out there on, are you sure what you're looking at is really there? Or is it just programmed in your mind that it's there? Is it just an illusion? But you've been doing it so long, you've never even considered. What if Jesus is just a myth? What if the whole story was made up about Jesus? Because there were many Jesus-like characters, brothers and sisters. And just for some of y'all who don't know, the Egyptians had their mother, father, son God. The Assyrians had it. The Medes had it. The Persians had it. It was all through Hinduism, Buddhism. They all have it. It's there somewhere. You got to peel back and look far enough, but it's in there somewhere. And this whole thing about Jesus, the virgin birth, and all that stuff is the same exact story that goes back thousands and thousands of years. So you sure what you believing is true? Because that's what they said about their gods too. Nimrod had his Jesus story. Nebuchadnezzar, King Darius, all of them. All the heathen gods have that same story that you are taught by heathens. Including heathens in your own family who were taught by heathens. And this is why this teaching is so important. This is not something to be played with. Like I said before, if you're just looking for stuff to watch because you're bored, that's one thing. So I guess you will never learn, anything because that's not your goal. But if you're looking to learn who you are, who Yahuwah is, who is, what does he cherish, how to live out this Torah the right way without stepping on landmines and listening to other people who don't know the difference between what is literal and what is figuratorial, then this is where you want to be. As simple as that. I spent 40 years in corporate America. Y'all know that already. An executive in corporate America. And another 40 years, what is the word when both things run together at the same time? Consecutively. 40 years, teaching out of this book, believe it or not. Believe it or not, most of that 40 years, at least 30 years of it, I was still in the New Testament. Because that sorcery is strong. It's hard to come out of there without a teacher. You had no one teaching us how to come out of there. Not 10 years ago, you had people talking about we were Israelites and all of that. That'd been going back, but they were still teaching out of the New Testament. They were still believing, that Yahuwah had set men gods upon this earth. Whatever they believe. I guess that's going too far. But my point is, bringing it back, is that, this is an old, pony being sold new to some of you. Talking about this whole thing about, there's a savior, somebody else going to die for your sins, and, and nobody can keep the Torah because, the Torah is too, literal. Well, there are parts of this Torah that Yahuwah has totally given the prophet the permission. That's why he told the people, you go to Moses with problems that y'all can't solve, and then Moses comes to me. That's exactly why he told Amos again, shall there be a secret, and I don't share with my servant the prophet. That's the very reason that's set up that way. We cannot give Yahuwah something that is unclean, and there is no sacrifice you could give him that he would accept, including you. He don't want you behind. He wants your loyalty. He wants your integrity. He wants your obedience. He wants your honesty. He don't want you. He made a woman for you. He made a man for you. And in order for that to show its fruit, hallelujah, there has to be organization, no structure, and someone that is gleaning and moving, all of the obstacles out of the way as your eyes become clearer and clearer to who Yahuwah is, and if you're Israel, who you are as his chosen people. Yasharel, not the people who live in the land. I'm not talking about Jewish people. Jewish people are somebody else. They're just like a Chinese to us. That means nothing no more than a Chinese means to us. I'm talking about the people of this book. These people, those people are not the people of this book. They may be the orchestrators behind the New Testament, but they're not. Oh, they don't believe in the New Testament. Whatever. Again, we don't, stop assuming you already know what we know or don't know, okay? Thank you for your cooperation. And what I am saying, when I say Yasharel, I'm talking about the melanated ones who always knew who we are. It was passed down orally, and then sometimes, written and put away. But there are indicators all over the place. Jamestown, Israel Hill, caves all through the Grand Canyon place. They found Hebrew writings. The first Native Americans, when these heathens came over and saw the worship they were doing, they were like, "That's a strange worship. Who are you praying to? Yahweh." Or Yahuahs is what they said, but these idiots probably thought they said Yahweh. When you hear that Yah, 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 they call the so-called Indian chant bullshit. That's a praise. But not by all of them. I'm not talking about white folk pretending to be Native Americans, Mexicans pretending to be Native. I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about the tribes who were here long before the first white man was recorded being here. But that to be said, all these things led up to this event during Alexander the Great time, and our people were fighting, and at the end of the day, we found out that it really was about getting back to the ancient past, which is what his father reminded them of, talking about Judah Maccabee's father. And he said that Torah, he said, you fight for your brethren, and you fight for that Torah. And their idea of fighting was to die for it. That first thousand died for it out of ignorance. That second group, that second Judah Maccabee group, he said when they understood what had happened, this is verse 39 in chapter 2. If you go to chapter 1 Maccabees chapter 2, verse 39, you'll see that we learned from what happened to them. We didn't just let it keep on happening. When we saw what our enemy was capable of doing, and we came up with a plan, brothers and sisters, like we're supposed to be doing right now, to circumvent that. And they didn't stand around here waiting for nobody but themselves, and they had the Torah in hand. And they knew they had to do something too. And that's why they got out there full of fury, and they fought back. And when they started fighting, other righteous men and women joined into that fight. And now you've got an army. And now the heathens, aren't so eager to come out there, wherever we are. Because they know when they come out there, you follow me? To get something, they're going to have to bring something. And they better be sure that, those saying it pays the cost to be the boss. So they better be ready to pay the cost. Because they ain't uprooting us. When we're at that place, that's the last place we're going to ever, leave until Yahuwah comes. And we got some acres and acres out there. So there'll be enough room for the righteous remnant. That's why I say to some of you brothers and sisters, if y'all with us, stay connected. But like I said, you can't be connected hiding in the dust. And then pop up at the last minute. Well, I was always here, elder. I was just quiet. Well, I'm glad you always been there. And I wish you weren't so quiet. Because when we take roll, if we don't hear your name, or that's the first time we hear your name, we're gonna have to leave you behind. This is not the time to hide. This is the time to show your face. I'm private. What does that even mean? You don't have any privacy. You have a social security number? Then you're not private. We can start right there. Do you have a social security number? And do others have it? Does anybody have your social security? Does the government have your social security number? Does anybody have your social security number? Other than you. The people who issued it to you, do they have it? Can you get a copy of it? That's how you know if they have it or not. From them. The answer is yes, 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 yes. So it ain't about hiding, it's about defending. And they understood this, brothers and sisters. But now we have fought, we're breaking free. Well, the story on Caleb, 85, but he had the strength of 40. going to be in the book of Joshua chapter 14, starting about verse 6 on down to 11, 12. Hallelujah. We got stuck there last message. But that's how y'all kept him strong. He was 85 years old, still had the same body he had when he was 40. Vibrant, strong, aggressive. So age is not supposed to be an enabler. Age is supposed to be a contributing factor to the rest. But so now that their father has died, he's passed the torch to his son Judah. And now Judah has gotten the people together, and this is what they're doing. Some of the ones who came with him, that came out of the city, because they had declared war on all people, killing women, killing children, hanging babies, as I said earlier, slaughtering the women. So I say, daughters of Zion, you don't have any friends out here. What you might have is righteous men who will love and defend you. And their love for you is not going to be bringing you roses and diamond rings. That's not the kind of love that we know that's not love. We know that's first of all, it's BS, socially engineered ways of showing appreciation. Keep your diamonds and fight unto death for me. How about that? Keep your roses and don't lie to me. How about that? In time, you'll find out those things last. Diamonds and things, they're there to be bought and sold and eventually lost or given away. So now they've come together. They recovered the Torah from the hands of the enemy. Praise Yahuwah for that. And now they're preparing to fight back. Yahuwah has sent them help, as he always does. I'm talking about the righteous remnant. There's going to be an ark that's going to come, or a shield, or an angel, or two, or 2,000. Okay, let's pick up first Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 3. And then his son Judah, called Maccabees, rose up in his stead, came up behind his father, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his family. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Yasharel. They weren't cowardly. They fought back. And so he got his people great honor, and he put on the breastplate of a giant, and the girt of his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. In his acts he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked, and he sought them out, and he burnt up those that vexed the people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because deliverance prospered in his hand. Talking about Judah Maccabees, this man. And he grieved also many kings, and he made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. You will never forget what you do when you're doing what is right. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the wicked out of them, and turning away wrath from Yasharel. And that's how we get Yahuwah to bless us, get rid of the evil amongst us. And so that he was renowned unto all the utmost parts of the earth, and received him as such as were ready to perish. He became a refuge for our people who were sick or are in danger. And so you have blessed us with that kind of leadership. And it's still there if that leadership is standing 10 toes down, 2 fists up. Yahuwah does not change. And you notice they didn't need a savior. They didn't need some redeemer. They just followed Torah and they were blessed. For all of you out there, the new here, listen, they followed the Torah. That's how they were blessed. And if you study with us on Wednesday night, or go back and look at many videos, talks about this book. The teachers on this channel is about this book, brothers and sisters. Not the New Testament. Ain't no teaching over there. That's recitals. No, the real teaching is right here in this Torah and this Tanakh. And you'll find, hundreds of videos on this channel talking about it. But you have to be, again, committed and be resilient. to find out about it. And you'll realize we didn't need no Jesus. We already had what we needed. Yahuwah is our Redeemer. Go read the book of Isaiah chapter 43. If you're not sure, if you're just journeying this and you're trying to figure what's going on around you, something is starting to change in your heart. Yahuwah is opening your eyes. That's what it is. Don't be afraid. Come out of the dark. I'm talking about this a sorcery, the lack of knowledge. Come on over. That information is there. But again, as you go through and see, he said he put the wickedness from among our people. And then Yahuwah prospered us. And then we don't have to be in the damn, houses that are falling on our heads. Or jobs that go nowhere. Human chattel, again, in their prison systems. Laboratory rats for the health industry. I said laboratory rats and monkeys for the health departments. What all their programs about. All their health programs. Leave it right there, I ain't gonna say more. Learn from you. What's your DNA structure made of? Why is it that one of your cells seems to live forever? How does your millennium works to your advantage and ours, if we have any, to our destruction or the erosion of our bodies? Why do your men outgrow us, your daughters outgrow us? Why they're faster than us? Naturally, I'm talking about. Stronger than us naturally. Why can they work in the sun all day long and come home and their skin is shiny while yours is blistered? These are questions, brothers and sisters, that have had these people confounded for thousands of years. And the answer is a simple one. Yahuwah has given us something that he didn't give them. And it all is written in this Torah, in this Tanakh. He didn't hide it away. They told us to put it away and gave us their Jesus or Yahuahs or whatever. But we had the Creator. Why would we need something less than him? And we still have him, by the way. It's just that some of us are a lot more fortunate than most of us to know him again. We know him like our ancestors knew him. Hallelujah for that. And just like he blessed them, he's going to bless us. Challenges? Yeah. Fighting back? Hell yeah. We're going to fight you back. And last but not least, blessed. David said, cup running over. Yahuwah said, Isaiah said, Isaiah, you can't even imagine what it is. So, I said, hallelujah. Come on out if you're coming. But that's a synopsis in terms of, why we don't believe in some heathen God that everybody else had and a heathen God that I can assure you, if you don't come out of it, you ain't going to learn no more than you already know. You can go to church and camps and community, anywhere you want to go. If they're teaching the same lie, then it's all about the same lie. If they can't teach from this Torah and Tanakh exclusively, these apocryphal books as related to this Torah and Tanakh exclusively, then they shouldn't be teaching, and you shouldn't be over there listening to them teach. And a lot of them will lie and say these books are not real because, Yahuwah is not going to reveal to them that these books are real because they're still Christian non-Christians. It's like now they're over here talking about the apocryphal books don't matter, but when they're over there in the New Testament culture, they say the Torah didn't matter. So you see what I'm saying? They're still doing the same thing, just a different enemy. But always the word. They're always going to attack the truth. So you'll know them when you see them. You'll know them when you hear them. You damn sure will know them by their behavior. Just pay attention. Watch them. Vet them. But like I said before, you know, the ones we know that are with us, you know, we're glad you're with us. But if you're with us, you're going to have to make yourself known before, you know, shit hits the fan. Okay, I'm just telling you. Women, men, doesn't matter. If you back there hiding from yourself, well, somebody need to tell you, you're not hiding very well. Everybody's watching. You looking at the wall and they're looking at the room that's got you surrounded in the wall. Don't let being comfortable become a prison cell to you, brothers and sisters. Verse 10, First Maccabees. And Apollonius gathered the other nations together and with a great host out of Samaria to fight against Yasharel. Which thing when Judah perceived, he went forth to meet him. And so he smote him and slew him. Many also fell down slain, but the rest of them ran. Wherefore Judah took their spoils, the stuff they had became ours, hallelujah. Wealth of the wicked is stored up for the just. And Apollonius, his sword also, and therewith he fought all of his life long. They whipped it behind, kicked him, and then took his goddamn weapon. A bad man. I like this dude. Verse 13. And now when Saron, the prince of the army of Aram, heard say that Judah had gathered unto himself a multitude and a company of faithful to go out with him to war. I like that faithful part. He said, I will get a name and honor in the kings and the kingdom. This is not Judah. This is this Saron guy. That's not Judah talking here, just so you know. Not Judah Maccabees talking. He said, I can get my own, commandment. I can get my own, platoon or my own company, whatever, military talk. Or in leadership, I can get my own, district, my own region, my own territory, same mentality. Looks like he's trying to do it for gain, self-gain, not for the people. See somebody winning, so they come over there, because they want to win, but they don't want to commit. They don't want to put the work in. They're going to ride the winner's tail. Be careful of those kind of people, brothers and sisters. The hanger-oners. They're not committed. They're only committed in words. They're there for the show. They're sightseers. With nothing left to see that excites them, they run to the next fire. Sooner or later, they'll fall in the fire, but that's how they do. And burn. Verse 14, he said, and I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go and fight with Judah and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of wicked to help him, to be avenged of the children of Yasharel. See, we didn't just sit around and take it. We're not supposed to. Now, that's why I say all these midnight virgils or prayer virgils and protest marches and church assembly, brothers and sisters, that's for the chumps. That's for losers. That's what a loser does. That's for the defeated. That's not the way lions represent. That's the way a dog, put his tail between his legs, you know what I'm saying, and gets low down on the ground. That's how they behave. That's that kind of behavior. That's not ancestral. That's churchy. That's wicked Israelites among us working through the clergy, all the branches of religion, and government working hand in glove. I heard somebody talk about this in the Constitution. There's a separation of church and state. No, it isn't. There's a paper that was written by Thomas Jefferson talking about the importance of separation of church and state. But there is no constitutional law that says there's a separation of church and state. It talks about freedom of religion, but it never says anything about the government and the church being two separate entities, because it isn't. The government needs the church to steam drive the people into their manufacturing plants or other labor camps. They work hand in glove. But that's why you're here, to learn the truth. Not with the myths. Let them keep their mythology, their religions, and anything else and anyone else who's a part of it. And this is what they're doing here. Now, of course, this man sees that we're winning, and so even though he's not an Israelite, he wants to line himself up with us. So like the righteous stranger is supposed to do. Let's pick back up. Verse 16, and when he came near to the going of Beth-Sharon, Judah went forth to meet him with a small company. Now Judah Maccabees is going to meet this Sharon fellow, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, they said unto Judah, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude, and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? Unto whom Judah answered, and this is what I like. Look at Judah's answer, brothers and sisters. Remember the question. The question is, oh boy, what's going to happen to y'all? What if? What if? What if? See, that's the what if. You just heard the what if. I'll read the what if to you one more time. Unto whom Judah answered, verse 17. He says, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judah, how shall we be able, being so few, these are the what if people, to fight against so great a multitude? Y'all show what if people. And so strong, seeing we're ready to faint and fasting all this day. See how they got all of these things that could go wrong. This is why you got to be careful, brothers and sisters, who you allow in your company and who you're listening to, including your own self. And especially unbelieving family members. They're notorious with that what-if foolishness. Like their life is so, fantastic. Their life is a wreck. They're trying to tell you, you know what I'm saying, how to drive, how to live. Maybe they should have took their own advice. They're trying to give us advice that we obviously they didn't follow. Well, you say, I'm going to give you something new, something different, Elder DFG. Give you something better than yourself to follow. And that's his Torah. That's his word. So here it is with their what if stuff. But look what Judah says. Is it no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few? And with Yahuwah of heaven, is it all one to deliver with great multitude or with a small company? But the victor of the battle stands not in the multitude of their armies, but in the strength that comes from heaven. This is the same thing that Yahuwah told Gideon to tell these people, tell our people. He told them, no, Yahuwah said, no, it's too many. Who's afraid? Who's fearful? Go back. They turned around, 22,000. Then Yahuwah went down and said, now haven't drank water. 9,700 of them not even paying attention to the environment that they're in. 300 of them are. He said, send those back. Just keep the 300. Because I don't need, he said, the victory is already yours. That part. So you go on to fight, but the battle's already over. He said, if you're not sure, he said, go over there to their camp. Sneak up on their camp and listen to what they're talking about. And sure enough, Gideon took a man, he went over there and they listening. Man, they were scared shitless of us. Why do you think even now they're the same way? One of us do anything that makes them uncomfortable, they calling the whole goddamn police department out on us. All they got to do is say black female, black male, and here they come. Nothing changed, and nothing is going to change. Whatever little civilization you see going on, it's only because that their system of governing still is functional. But as soon as that falls, and it's going to fall, that's when you're going to find out, brothers and sisters, the results of the choice that you made. Not before, not after. That's the moment that you're going to have to deal with the consequences of the choice that you made. That's when you're going to realize if you made the right or wrong decision. There won't be no what if then. And you got a lot of people out there with that what if talk. They ain't nothing but, cowards. Miserable people who like company. They don't want to be the only one. You give them purpose. They're miserable. The only purpose they have in life is controlling our lives or some of your lives. They don't control my life anymore. Not because they didn't want to either, because I refused to allow them to. And I'm still that way. Yahuwah is going to guide me as I lead us. Me and other leadership with me, who have the same commitment, faithful to what I'm faithful to. And yes, the daughters of Zion play a role in leadership with us. And when they're with us, they'll know what that role is. We don't believe in barefoot pregnant in the kitchen. Although there may be some barefoot pregnant daughters of Zion in the kitchen. I'm sure there'll be. But that's not a concept. That's a reality of a productive, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, blessed family. The heathen try to make it out to be something ugly. But that's their problem, not ours. But he's reminding me, he said, Yahuwah don't need a lot, brother. This is Judah telling the enemy that, or the allied enemy. He said, for the victory of the battle, verse 20 again, the victory of the battle stands not in the multitude of men, but in the strength that comes from heaven. He said, they come against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us and our children, our women and our children, and to spoil us. And this is what I said to the daughters of Zion. This is not her teaching when I tell you, sisters, that you need to be protected. You're reading right here. When these enemies come, they're not just coming for the men. They're coming for you and they're coming for your child or your children. And you better be ready to fight. Or they're going to take you as spoil. You become somebody's property to use any way they see fit. And that means abuse as well. Verse 20. And they come, he's telling them again, this is Judah talking to him. And they come up against us in much pride and iniquity to destroy us and our women and children and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and for our Torah. I'll say that again. What are you fighting for? I know what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for our lives and I'm fighting for the Torah. Exactly what I'm doing. And I'm not just talking about our souls. I'm talking about our literal lives. Flesh lives. For that too. That's why I said we finally, I don't want to get too much in our business, but let's just say we're 1/3 of the way now, Yahshua. And 6 months ago we weren't there. Now we're 1/3 of the way. 2/3 to go. The final third, we'll be there. Living, hooking up things. So we're taking a big step. And this week and next week will be definitive, and the weeks to come, Yahuwah willing, plant our flag in the sand. And we're going to defend it. All faithful men and women who love Yahuwah, love each other, and love this Torah. Picking up at verse 21. But he said, we fight for our lives and our Torah. Wherefore, before Yahuwah himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be you not afraid of them. Now, as soon as he had left off speaking, he leapt suddenly upon them, and so surrounding his host was overthrown before him. And before they pursued them from going down to Bet Cheram unto the plain were slain about 800 men of them, and the remnant fled into the land of the Philistines. And then began the fear of Judah and his brethren, and exceedingly great to dread, and they were afraid us to fall upon the nations around and about us. So you see, it looked like there was some little skullduggery going on around there with this Saron fella. So we got to be very careful, brothers and sisters, who we let in our company, because they're going to come as a friend. David said the word smooth as butter with war in their heart. See, Judah was able to read the disposition. So this is interesting. Where did this heathen come from? What is heathen talking about? Oh, you love us. You love our people. You always loved our people. So you say. Interesting. Why are you over there counting numbers? Did y'all catch that? That's why this teaching is so important. You got to know who's around you, what they're talking about. Give them a minute. It'll come up. It'll come out. Then you'll know who they are. Watch what they do. They'll say it every now and then, but watch it. Got a lot of people, brothers and sisters, are magicians and witches and warlocks, and they know how to use the spirit world to conjure up emotions. I say it again, they know how to use the spirit world to conjure up emotions in people. These are strong witches. These people have spent many years in isolation, mental isolation, and they know how to be persuasive. And they can take on many shapes, many types of behaviors, many forms of behavior. They're like chameleons. They can change in a moment. They're really, there's a demonic entity that lives with them. And that thing been with them probably most of their life. From childhood on up, it's still controlling them. And its job is to get around strength and suck the strength out of the strength. That's what its job is. It's an energy sucker. Like a vampire, legendly goes after blood. Soul stealers go after your soul. And the way they do that is they use emotionalism to get you to gravitate, to break you down, so they can, insulate you with whatever it is, that force that has them. They're projecting it. They're astroplaning it. It's the word. I think it's called astroplaning. That whatever demonic force that walk with them, they try to attach to something else. And it will pull you in there. Because where there's one, there'll be two. Where there's two, there'll be four. Where there's four, there'll be eight. Where there's eight, there'll be 16. Where there'll be 16, there'll be 32. Whether there be 32, there'll be 64. Whether there be 64, there'll be 128. The multiples keep going. They're never contented with just themselves. They're plotters, manipulators. You know what I'm saying? They're parasites. They run all over the place looking. They're contagion. They're disease, as I said. That's why you see them all over all these other channels, commenting everywhere. They don't know what they believe. They tell themselves everybody got a little bit of the truth. And that means that they don't have the truth. So they shouldn't even be talking. Because the truth is, the word is, Yahuwah's word, this Torah is the truth. He's given us prophets and the Torah and the Tanakh to not only fight for, live with. Why he say, we'll fight for our lives and fight for this Torah. That's what it's talking about. These two go together. It's a living book. Again, this book doesn't belong in nobody's church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, or just sitting in your house. This book should be the most treasured artifact you have in that house. More important than your legal papers, more important than anything. This is the signature of Yahuwah, brothers and sisters. What did David say? Yahuwah gave the word, great were the men who published it. And why the prophet? To navigate you to the do's and don'ts in the time that we're in this particular dispensation, which is the last dispensation. It's over. So in these last days, there are things that Yahuwah would have not permitted that he will permit. There are things that he would have tolerated that he's not going to tolerate. Knowledge, Daniel was told, would increase in these last days, and it has. That's Daniel 12:4. And the knowledge increased so that you could increase. We were supposed to increase right along with that knowledge. And this is what I have been trying to communicate through the works here, whether it be the Wednesday night Tanakh studies or Shabbat message and these intermediate messages through the week, is what I'm trying to communicate to my brothers and sisters. There's a greater truth that's on this earth that's always been here, hidden out of sight. Because our enemies intentionally knew that if we ever came into the knowledge of that true writing and who it was actually talking about, they would lose control of this earth. And they have lost control of it because we do know. And that's why it's slipping away. Why do you think all this chaos? Because we woke up and at the same time, their things started to fall apart. Think about it. Our awakening was 6, 7 years ago, more or less. Talking about the strong awakening, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And look what's happening to their economies all over this earth. What did 2 Ezra 6 and 9 say? Esau is the end of this world, brothers and sisters. And Jacob is the beginning of the new which follows. See, when we awaken, the Tower of Babel will be all the way to the ground. And then Yahuwah is going to build up, this earth, or bring it back to its natural self, its first self. Then he's going to place us back in it. But this time, understanding what happened the last time, so it doesn't ever happen again. That's why every year we're going to go, in the time of visitation, we're going to go look upon those who are judged and look at, Yahuwah's judgment against them. Men, women, children, and babies. Babies that could have been protected. But the people who were supposed to protect them was too busy worrying about what other people thought about them or what this heathen could do to them. Instead of thinking about what your brother and sister Yahshua thinks about you. Now that should matter. That's called faithfulness within us. So we should be concerned about those who love Yahuwah. Yeah, that their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions under control matter. But let's pick back up. So here it is. They went to fight. We saw that ended. Judah didn't give up the range. Judah held 10 toes down. Hallelujah. Killed about 800 of them, and the rest of them ran off like they always do. They're always going to run. Hallelujah for that. Then began the fear of Judah and his brethren, and exceedingly great dread to fall upon the nations round about them. So much so that as his fame came unto the king, and all the nations talked about the battles of Judah. And now King Antiochus heard these things, and he was full of indignation, where he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. And he opened also his treasure, and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever that he should need them. That's his mercenaries, his what you would call here National Guardsmen. I told you, brothers and sisters, see how they used the government back in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood example. They used the National Guard to bomb this Greenwood, the town. You know, the time when we were fighting back in the 1968, late 60s, early 70s, around the time of Dr. King's assassination, time Malcolm, the revolution that was going on, Huey P. Newton, the Black Panthers, all of those things. We were coming anti-government, anti-establishment. We were waking up. Not just Israel, but other nations. Israel didn't know what the hell it was. That's why it failed. Had they been in the knowledge, they could have turned the tides then. But again, trying to accept everybody, and that's what happens. You have to have a standard. But the long story short, that, they put the National Guard out on our people. National Guard were in all these major cities: Detroit, Chicago, New Orleans, Houston, anywhere there was a strong metropolitan of us, Washington, D.C. They used the army against us, the National Guard, the paid reservists. They did it then, and they're still doing it now, and they're going to do it again. As soon as they call martial law, and it's coming, they're gonna let something through pretty soon, and it's gonna be so catastrophic. The local police, all those places, they're not gonna be able to manage that chaos. They're gonna need the military for all the chaos that's gonna be going on, and the military is not coming in to protect nobody. The military is just gonna make sure that high value property, and more or less, the streets stay clear at night. But they ain't gonna be answering no phone calls. Who you gonna call? Internet's going to be down anyway. Only transfer communal going to probably be 2 high-powered handheld radios. So who going to call and tell them that somebody just came on your land and killed 8 children? Came in your house and, just shot, your husband and took in your daughter. Like that can't happen. So this government is going to be used against Yahshua as it always, all governments, not just this one. It doesn't matter where you are. When they find out who you are, you saw when they was trying to get them in the Ukraine, when Russia was supposed to be coming after them, they started evacuating immigrants from other areas. You notice who they wouldn't put on them trains, or at least who they put on there last. If you say melanated Africans, yeah. Might have been a few Israelites in there, but they made it clear who they're going to protect and who they're not going to protect. They're going to protect their own kind. That's why you should be with your own kind. Protecting. But I guess as long as there's a wicked Israelite among us out there in your ears, you're going to keep listening to them. That's their job, to scare you into doing nothing, to scare you into defenselessness. Yet your enemy coming with weapons. And as we can read here, not only were our leadership smart enough to be able to sniff out a plot, because leaders have to have that kind of experience. Got to be able to check out the surroundings. Say, okay, why is that car down there? Who is this person here that standing over there that's acting like he's not paying attention but listening? Go get him. Let's deal with him. But let's pick back up, just saying, being careful who's around you and what they're up to and what they're talking about. Because you'll be surprised. They come to you, like David says, words smooth as butter, but wars in their heart. Salt is all, but they got knives in their hands. You listen to them, you pay the price for it. And the king is always going to have his mercenaries, his national guard, his military, ready to attack Israel. That's why Israel has to disconnect, become more self-sufficient. Not because we don't want to, it's because we have to. It's not even an option. Only a fool would understand that his enemy is coming to attack him, and he has some way to be able to fight back and possibly even win that would do absolutely nothing to avoid the assaults that are going to come upon him and those like him or her. That's a very foolish person. And there's a whole lot of people, because there's Christianity foolishness, who will tell you just that. I'm waiting on Jesus. Jesus knows my heart. I know he hears my prayers. No, Satan listening to you. And Satan, these demons are catering to you. Some you see, some you don't see. But I can assure you, Yahuwah doesn't talk to anyone who does not keep this Torah. And if you can't follow leadership, you're none of Yahuwah's. He set up the leadership infrastructure. You go on the job and follow leadership, why you can't come here and embrace it, engage it, and support it. So the king is mad. He's sending the army. Let's see how our people are going to respond. Verse 29. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in his country were small because of the dissension of the plague, which had brought upon the land and taken away the Torah, which Yahuwah had been of old time. They took our Torah, and Yahuwah caused disease and famine to happen in that land. How many of you guys knew that? How many of you read this all the time and you missed what Yahuwah did to them just for taking our Torah? Which is what they did this time, or trying to do now by shutting down channels or putting shadow banning this channel. It's the same thing. So Yahuwah's going to judge them for what they're doing to us. I'm talking about DFG family of believers, us. He's going to judge them for what they're doing. This government, their financial institution, our family members, people who used to be with us, who are no longer with us anymore. Yahuwah is going to judge. He's already judging them. And it's about to get harsh on them. He ain't going to release them. These people have to be fully repentant, and they're definitely not going to do that. And not only have to be fully repentant, they have to conform, and they have to come here in a subservient role. And you know they're not going to do that. That's why he said, again, I said earlier, in the book of Enoch 97 and 16, he said, Yahuwah marks them for damnation. He said, because they're adorient, it means stiff-necked, hard-headed. They have a disdain for the truth, disgraceful. They don't even respect the teaching. They respect how they feel. That's what they cater to. So whatever you cater to, that's what you're respecting. Remember that. That's why we don't let our emotions control us, because then it makes us selfish animals, like most of people are. He said, but he had put this curse on it behind for what? For taking away the Torah, which had been done of old time. He does not change. It's going on right now again. That's why they're trying to shut this down. He feared, verse 30, and he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before. This is what's going on with Trump. You know, when he thought that they could take Iran, according to them, I'm not saying I wouldn't bet my life on any of this stuff being the actual truth, but this is the narrative that's out there. But saying that, you know, well, Trump can't afford, he's running out of money, so we're telling all those other countries to get involved and help. This is like history playing out. If you think about what's going on right now, brothers and sisters, you can see this story in your mind's eye, real time. I do. Easy for me to connect it and see history repeating itself. Because Yahuwah is judging them for coming after what? His what? His treasure, us, Yahshua. All these years, he gave them time to, you know, to fix what they had done. The reparations conversation came up. They didn't want to hear nothing about that. You follow me? The programs that were half-assed, set, you know, like affirmative action, DEI, to maybe help some, they got rid of that. Finally acknowledged that the Board of Education was just a big propaganda machine to get people ready to work in manufacturers. But since AI is going to take over all the jobs in the foreseeable future, they look at it, why do we need a Board of Education? When these people get out of school, they ain't going to have any jobs, so we're wasting funds by doing that. So whatever they learn, let it be and don't worry about it. Worst case scenario, we can get them, you know, in labor camps. Ship them out to these other countries, sell them out to these other countries, you know, for money. Like a workforce, like the prison lease program. That's going to come back again. But this time, instead of you getting leased to the local sharecropper, if you were in, you know, I don't know, Huntsville, Alabama, now you're going to get leased to Nicaragua. Now they're going to lease you to El Salvador. Or so whatever country that needs labor. And that's who prisons you're going to sit in. If you think it's a joke, wait and see. Just wait and see. It'll be far too late when you realize you should have listened. But it's coming. Male or female, you're not escaping that. And by the way, your ethnicity is not going to save you either. So-called white man and red man and brown man, this includes you too. When they can't feed you, what you think they're going to do with you? There ain't no jobs. Universal basic income. You believe that? You serious? They won't pay us reparation, but they're going to come up with universal basic income. When we asked about reparation, what did they tell us? We're broke. There's no money. Did they not tell us that? But now they got all this money all of a sudden for universal basic income, UBI. So when there's no more jobs, you're going to work 4 days a week, or no, we're going to give you 4 days a week and you can be creative and we're going to send you a check. Where the money coming from? I thought they said this nation was 40 trillion in debt, and who knows what the other nations are, what their debt looks like. Talking about functional civilizations. All the big basic lie. Anything to keep you distracted. Keep you from coming here and getting this information and taking it seriously. Like you are in college at an elite school that's teaching you about economics and how man interacts with it and what civilization and cultivation looks like versus colonization, which is all you've experienced thus far. But this is a reality, and this is a problem. And again, it's just to show you when you come back to Yahuwah and we're doing things by the ancient way, which many out there despise the word ancient. That's our only out. We have to go back to Yahuwah's ways. And that means no paganism, no selfishness, no stubbornness, no rebellion, no fear of anything but Yahuwah, and honoring his righteous leadership, of course. And losing yourself so that whoever you potentially can be has a shot of becoming you. All of you, fulfilling all of you. And that stuff don't happen unless these kind of conversations happen. And they need to work in conjunction. Life in the book. The book as it applies to life. And that's the value of this channel. Because you're going to get both. And most people are afraid of that because that's where power is. And most people are afraid of power. But there's an old saying, you got to fight fire with fire, you got to fight power with power. And what's coming on us is a dark power. It's already here, just hasn't overtaken us in entirety. The water is rising. And the people are panicking. But most of them don't realize that that answer was that ark, and that ark was these teachings. They're way too powerful to accept that. No way. Everybody can tell me what to do except for Yahuwah. And Yahuwah ain't talking to you unless he's coming through his prophet to you. So, again, everybody can talk to you except for Yahuwah. But just like he said, what did he say about this? What did he say? The rod of correction, right? For the back of a fool. And that's what's going to happen. There's a lot of those among us who foolishly trust these heathens and the heathen system over Yah's righteous leadership. Something to really think about. Sad, but it's true. But let's pick back up here. Picking back up. Now that the king has seen this, he's mad. He's trying to get his armies together, trying to pay them off, bribe them off. Excuse me. Yahuwah is judging them for taking out Torah. Again, just like he judged them in times past. When he took Abraham's woman, he judged them for that. Took Isaac's woman, he judged them for that. Wouldn't let our people go, he judged them for that. He's constantly judging them and they never learn. But he's only judging them when we come out of the darkness. When we come out of their system, then Yahuwah can judge them as he blesses us. And you see this example all written through all of chapter 3. Not only is Judah Maccabees increasing in liberty and freedom to be able to, to cleanse out the cities, but they're also being blessed economically, and he's also blessing them with wisdom. Be able to discern between, light and dark. Evil and good. And this is why it's so important to have leadership, because who is going to talk to that leadership. And where there is things that are questionable, then you have a leader that can say, okay, no, this is acceptable. Here's the justification for it. Here's the precept on where we see this has happened before. Now, therefore, this is the solution. And then we go. Keep on moving. Hallelujah. Let's pick back up. So the king is trying to pay people to come. I don't know, let's see if it's working for him. Pick up verse 30. And he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before. This is the Trumpism that's going on right now, him and Bibi. For he had abounded above the kings that were before him. So it was a very powerful king. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go to Persia, Iranians, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. And so he left Lydas, a nobleman, and one of a blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Parat unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and he gave him charge of all things that he would have done, and also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem. And to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Yasharel and the remnant of Jerusalem, to take away their memorials from that place, the Torah and everything that represents us with our culture, everything that connects us, to our culture. And he that should place strangers in all of their quarters, where they live, and to divide their land by lot, just like Willie Lynch was talking about. Just like the mercenaries were doing for King Leopold in the Congo. Like they did in Vietnam, like they did in China, like they did in all the countries of Africa. All of Africa was British colony, except for Ethiopia. Somehow, well, I know why, but not a conversation for right now. It had nothing to do with them having an Ethiopian Bible, the truth. That's bullshit. It was terrain, But everywhere they set their foot, we know they're scorched predators, and that's why you have to be ready to fight against them. And when they start losing, they get dirty. They already do dirty antics. They're always up to, what did David say? They were born, the wicked come from their mother's womb lying, Psalm 58 and 3. But they know how to get really nasty and ugly, brothers and sisters. So they're not the kind of people that we need to, be thinking in terms of covenant or anything like that with them. And because they're wicked Israelites all around us, again, we need to vet them. And I'm saying to you, my brothers and sisters, some of you think you're doing the right thing because I just want to get a lot of information. No, you're just clogging up your brain with probably 99% useless information. Because if that teaching doesn't help you to introspect and then take the learning from introspective and match it up with this Torah, and then make a commitment to this Torah through repentance, contrition, submission, and then walking amongst other like-minded brothers as instructed, then you don't need that information. That's useless. And again, if Proverbs 28 and 9 is not saying it clear enough, I don't know where else could it have been any clearer. Solomon, again, when he went before Yahuwah, he asked for what? Wisdom and judgment. Again, I said that earlier in his teaching. He didn't ask for money and gold and silver, but Yahuwah said, because you asked for wisdom and judgment, how to treat your brethren and sisters the right way, the law by the Torah, he said, then I'm going to bless you with no enemies and all the wealth that a man can imagine. So when we put Yahuwah first, then he puts our needs first. But if we put our needs first, then Yahuwah says, well, then you're on your own. Let's see how far your needs are going to get you. Your needs are going to keep you on your knees, begging these heathens to catch a damn break, which they're not going to give you. And the worse the things get, the more intense this thing is going to get, the more hostile, vicious. And that's what I said earlier. So when they come, they're not just coming after the men, they're coming after you too, sisters. And the children too. And you will be sold for a price. Or thrown away. And I don't mean like thrown away you're like put out. No, I'm talking about done away. Slew. S-L-E-W. But picking back up. Go back over here. So again, he's scared. He's getting all the forces together. He's dividing up his army. This is what leadership looks like, truth be told. Coming up with a plan. But here's Judah. Follow me? He's not running. Let's pick up verse 36. And that they should place strangers in all of their quarters to divide their land by lot. So what they're talking about doing to us. And the king, this is all the prisons and the churches that are in our communities. I'll say it again. The prisons on the outside of the communities, and the churches, and the liquor stores in the communities. That's what they're there for. The liquor ain't going to do you no harm. Book said we can have strong drink and wine from time to time. But them churches, that's a whole nother thing there. And they're all over the place. That's their quarters. See, where's the heathen's quarter? Well, the churches and the police department. That's where they live at among us. The church and the police department. And everybody who works in there and everybody who hangs out of fellowship in there willingly or unwillingly. All our enemies. Most of them. Talking about the enemy of the righteous remnant. Not to the rest of y'all. That's your buddies, your cousins, everybody. You get it. Not talking. Okay. So then the king, verse 30. So the king took half the forces that remained and departed to Antioch in his royal city. In his royal city, the 147th year, and having passed through the river Torah, he went through the high countries. Then Elias chose Ptolemy, the son of Dotromenes, Nicator, and the gorgeous, mighty men of the king's friends. Y'all know the siege of, okay, anyway. And with them he sent forth 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and destroy it as the king had commanded. And so they went forth with all of their power and came and pitched by Yemen in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much and with service, and they came into the camp to buy the children of Yasharel for slaves. Didn't I tell you that's what's going to happen? For all of you who ain't going to fight, all of you going to sit back and wait for Christ or whoever it is you call yourself waiting for, because the Yahuah show is not coming. So I want to say you leadership to lead you out. If you don't follow that, you on your own. But as I said, you're going to end up back in these FEMA camps, or you're going to end up in the penitentiary. But in both cases, they're going to make you slaves again. And they're going to use the National Guard to gather you up to do it. When they create a crisis where you cannot survive without their assistance. And see that elder is right. You can circle this right here. Go to your book. 2 Maccabees, chapter 3, verse 41. And the merchants of the country are going to hear about what's going on. They're going to get their money together. And what they're going to do with their own helpers, they're going to come into these camps, labor camps, FEMA camps, whatever camp you're in. Orphanages, doesn't matter. Catholic charities, doesn't matter. Superdome, the Astrodome, the this dome, that stadium, doesn't matter. They're going to have you all together in one little area, and that's where they're going to buy and sell you. It says right here, and they came into camp to buy the children of Yasharel for slaves. A power also of Aram in the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Remember that wicked Siron? He was a part of that folly. He was an enemy hiding in plain sight. But again, slavery ain't going away. It's been here, but it's about to intensify. And every Israelite, or every other non-Israelite, you heathens included, they're going to lock you up too. And I'm not just talking about feeding you good food. You eat what you find to eat in there. You get sick in there, ain't no doctor coming. They'll just take you out there and put you in a potter's grave. Better yet, let the dogs have you. That's what Jeremiah says is going to happen. All because of rebellion. But let's pick back up, verse 43. Verse 40, yeah, to utterly demolish us, or to abolish us. Again, that's Psalms 83 says. Verse 43, 2 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 43. And then they said one to another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people in the sanctuary. Then was the assembly gathered together that they might be ready to battle, and they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. And then Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness, and there was none to hear her children that went in and out. And the sanctuary also was trodden down, and the aliens kept the stronghold. And the heathen had their habitation in that place, and the joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Wherefore Yasharel assembled themselves together and came to Mizpah over against Jerusalem, for Mizpah was in that place where they prayed aforetime in Yasharel. And then they fasted that day, and then they put on sackcloth, and cast ashes upon their heads, and they rent their clothes. And they opened the cipher of the Torah, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. This is where the New Testament is being projected into the Torah and the Tanakh, brothers and sisters. So when people try to show you, oh, see over here, Isaiah 7 is talking about this, or Isaiah 9 is talking about that, or Isaiah 53 is talking about that, or Psalm chapter 2, or Jeremiah 30. Brothers and sisters, don't listen to them. It already told us the heathen would try to add things into this thing. If there was really a Yahushua that had anything to do with it, his name would be spelled out clearly. It would not be in, metaphors. His name isn't in the Tanakh, because if they would have put his name in that Tanakh, Yahuwah would have destroyed all the so-called other religions a long time ago. That's sacred ground. So they had to build around it, the Torah, with their own religions. But they can't attack it so they can take it, but they can't tear it down. That's forever. That's the word of Yahuwah. That's why we keep it. That's why we follow it to how Yahuwah tells it, not the best of our ability. We follow it according to the law that Yahuwah has given us in this dispensation that we live in. One that he has taught me, both sides. And now that knowledge is being passed down to many of you out there. And now you're growing and you're strong and being blessed. And now absolutely know what you believe and in whom you believe. And that is a blessing. That your strength you have taken back, brothers and sisters. Here's where we stand. So yeah, they did add into our book, but it's not going to work because you're going to use me to expose their lies. So get your trust game up, okay? Your help is here. Verse 49, and they brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes. And the Nazarene they stirred up who had accomplished their days. And then they cried with a loud voice towards heaven, said, what shall we do with these, and whither shall we carry them away? For your sanctuary is trodden down and profaned. This is all religions. This is what they're doing in our communities, what they're doing all over this earth. All religions are going against Yahuwah's Torah. He says, and your priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagined against us, only you know. So they're saying, we have no idea how vicious these people are going to be when they come, brothers and sisters. And that's why I'm telling my dear brothers and sisters, those of you who are out, look, get yourself healthy, get yourself strong, drink lots of water, get a lot of rest, study, pray, fast, teach, and be with us. Get close enough so we can tell you what's going on. But that close ain't just in no idle words. This is not a place you can talk your way into. No, you're going to have to show fruit. You're going to have to bear fruit. We have to know you're committed. But let's go on. He says this, how shall we be able to stand up against them except with you, O Yahuwah, be our help? And that is true. That's why he said one can put 1,000 to flight, what, 2 10,000. All right? But you have to be ready to fight, brothers and sisters. Then sounded they the shofar and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judah ordained captains over the people. See, setting up rank again, authority. After this, Judah ordained captains, he ordained them captains over the people, even captains over the thousands, over the hundreds, over 50s, and over the tens. Exactly what you're going to read in the book of Exodus chapter 18. So the law did not go away in that sense. Even though we were in captivity, there were still things that we did that were in our power to do. And we did them without polluting the sanctuary of Yahuwah. So as Moses followed it, Judah is following. Not the kingdom of Judah, Judah Maccabees. We're following it. He was in charge, and then he put people in charge. Capable people that he knew that were ready to take responsibility. Proven record of doing what they say and saying what they mean. Both male and female. Let's go, and that's important. If you can't handle that, then you can't handle the truth. And you're going to be left out there to the dogs. And there's no reason for that other than being selfish, blind, by pride or ignorance, whatever it might be, love or lust. Verse 56, but as for such as were building houses or had betrothed women or that were planting vineyards or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return every man to his own house according to the Torah. Let me go back. That's what I say, brothers. So this is amazing how many of these men who are out here, saying all this stuff and not doing anything to assist in this work. How do you identify? What is the identifier of that man? Because only evidence we have, it says when you want to be sitting around and not engaged, not participating, it says you're supposed to go back home with the women folk. You're not supposed to be sitting amongst the men folk. But there are many of them are sitting among us. Well, sooner than later, we'll see who the traitors are. And either they'll run before we come and get them, or we're going to come and get them. Who will show us who they are? Verse 58. And Judah said unto you, and said Judah, and Judah said, arm yourselves. He didn't say pick up the Torah, did he? So the Torah is already with us. We live through the Torah. He said, no, you need to pick up your weapons. So arm yourself. They have real weapons. You need to get a real weapon too. And y'all better be together, or they're going to snatch you off and sell you as slaves one at a time. Or worse. Verse 6, so the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Yemen. And Judah said, verse 58, and Judah said, arm yourselves and be valiant men, and see that you be in readiness against, or in the morning, that you may fight these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary, or our culture, or our way of living. We're getting it back, and they're trying to keep us from getting it back. So there's a fight for now the culture. There's a fight for our true identity. There's a fight to keep us from coming out of their system. And we have to fight back. Except they overthrow us and we lose too. And that's not an option for some of us. So we're going to fight unto death if necessary. And some of us won't see that. That's God's promise. Didn't say we wouldn't get blood on our hands, though. Didn't say we wouldn't see loved ones lost. He didn't say that. But he said, in the end, I'm going to be with you. And anything that you do lose, I'm going to replace it with something much, much better. He said, that's the only promise I'll make to you. Hallelujah. And last I checked, much better is always better than better. Great is better than good. I'll take great over good anytime if Yahuwah is the one that's giving that greatness. Verse 60, nevertheless, he said this, as the will of Yahuwah is in heaven, so let him do. And this is what he's saying. Ultimately, Yahuwah is going to decide. And we already know what he decided because we've been studying. So we win in the end. So if you will be saved in the world to come, there'll be a renewed earth, a new, heaven and earth, a renewed us, a refreshing of us, just like Caleb, for example. He's much younger than that, though. Now, ageless people, are healthy people, are strong people, people who love Yahuwah, love his Torah, and love each other. And that's what we're building. And when the time comes for that transition, we're just going to transition over. No spaceships, no rapture. Yahuwah's just going to have a shield of protection around us as he destroys it all. And then as he reflects it, he'll just remove the shield and put us back over it. So now y'all know what to do. Y'all already started. Keep doing what you've been doing. Hallelujah. I'll be in the midst of you. So that being said, brothers and sisters, I know we kind of went from here to there to here. But I think it's always important to take time to really self-assess. Ask yourself the question, how much protesting do we need to do to realize it does not work? How many prayer virgils do we need to have? And I understand that's not the same thing as being in Yahuwah's Torah. How long shall we chase after a culture that's foreign to us versus the culture that was built for us, our Torah and Tanakh? How long will we continue to hate the leadership that Yahuwah gives you through your own kind, but yet respect the leadership of your mortal enemy, who doesn't want to have anything to do with our kind, other than control and possess it? How are you going to get out of these cities? What's your mode of operations? What are you going to do? Are you going to wait till it's too late? And then thinking that somehow another city bus going to come and pick you up, school bus? That's what some of these lying devils are telling people. They're going to have food in these places, and they're going to send buses through the city and pick their people up. Like, where are they going to get gas from? How are they going to get through all the traffic jams? How are they going to be able to communicate? And what if the National Guard has everywhere sectioned off, and you can't go but within, the city block that you're in? Or some station that you could go to for food and other things as they prepare you to go to these camps, these 6 regional FEMA camps all over this country. And I'm sure the rest of the world has theirs as well. Common sense should tell you that they are liars. Anybody would tell you a lie like that, you should never trust them. They know good and well they're not going to be able to get through that traffic. They're not going to have radio communication. And they know that the National Guard or the military, they're going to use planes, drones, and everything else to keep people from going to any area unless they allow them to go into those areas. So they're just stealing and robbing y'all. Just so you know. But the righteous remnant, those of us, the Judah Maccabees of us, the DFG family, whatever we call ourselves, expanded, we're going to use what we have in our hands. And we're going to figure this thing out. And that's why I'm so grateful to some of you, especially you guys who really 10 toes down and, assist with this work. You don't get caught up in your feelings. You just caught up with it. This is necessary. This is a good cause. And I'm going to help. Or get involved. It's not about help. It's about contributing. We're not helpless. We're just looking, for community strength. And a part of that is making sure that we be able to get the things that we need to subsist. So the work and contributing that's what that work, that's what that's all about. But again, these stories are there to remind us our enemies are coming. They're going to try to make some of us slaves again. They're going to rob, they're going to pillage, they're going to knock in your doors, they're going to kick in your windows. You're going to put the rod of correction on many of their backs because you wouldn't listen. The rod of correction means he's going to let your enemy do whatever the enemy want to do to you. So if you want to tell a boy for a whore and the daughter of Zion for a bottle of wine, that's the way it's going to go down. You would say, I've given you a chance to leave. Get out or come in, whichever way it is. And for those of you who are out there not a part of us, instead of criticizing us, maybe you ought to look a little bit farther to what you believe. Maybe you need to go back and research what you believe. They're telling us we're wrong. Because I guarantee you, if you look far enough, you're going to see your whole religion, especially when it comes down to that New Testament, you're going to find out all that stuff is cosplay, plagiarized, lies with a little magic lies and spelled with a little truth sprinkled in there. Stuff they stole from the Torah. That's Maccabees 3:48. I read it. So we said paint the image and their likeness, that part. So I'll say to you, my dear brothers and sisters, time to get serious. I feel the seriousness of what's going on. I don't know why you don't. And what's coming, nobody's going to be able to stop this thing. All the stuff you see going on, it's just an illusion, a distraction, just something to keep you from focusing. And it's working. They know in 3 to 5 years, brothers and sisters, half the people, if not more, are going to have zero means for income. Zero. You know how bad that's going to be? Zero. I'm talking about the next couple of years, if that long. And all people just skipping along. These colleges and stuff, you just look at them like poor things. Talking about blind, talking about we're a cult. Universities is definitely a place where that's a cult there. If your child is in a university, your child is in a goddamn cult. School dictating to them what to learn and what to believe. And they're going to give them a degree if they listen. You know it and I know it. But all these places, got them over there knowing good so well, not going to be waiting for them. When you got to turn them back to this Torah, they could be working, with Torah-centric people like ourselves, building, investing in our own, space, and so we can have our own housing, our own, walls around us, and then take care of, what we have to take care of with righteous leadership. Because that is an option too. And I don't know about the rest of you, but a few of us, that's the option we're going to choose. And we're going to learn from our ancestors, and we're not going to make the mistakes that they made. And we're going to keep our eye out for wicked Israelites among us, because we know you don't mean us no good, and you know that too. And when Yahuwah expose you for who you are, you'll get smite. Maybe not necessarily by me or some of us, but Yahuwah going to smite you down. And you'll know it's him, because he's going to put something on you, and then he's going to flash back to you what you did to us, or me. Then you're going to remember. But until then, so be it. Again, share the message. Thumb it up, comment if you choose to. And that being said, y'all willing, we'll see you tomorrow night at Tanakh study. Hallelujah. All right? Praise Yahuwah. Shalom, Yahshua.